Before this video even begins, if you do find yourself enjoying this video at any point, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. My goal by the end of this year is 10,000 subscribers, and I'm putting in a lot of effort to make that goal a reality. With that being said, please enjoy this video. In the vast world of Yuri media, it's getting progressively harder and harder to find creative pieces of work. In fact, it's not just Yuri media in general, it's media as a whole. We're in the year 2025. Most of everything prior that has been utilized is now saturated, overtuned, burned out. So finding a piece of fiction that's different is like finding a clean needle in the needle pit from Saw. A few days ago, while I was looking for a new Yuri series to binge, I came across one called Wasureenu Majo no Monogatari, which in English is The Story of the Unforgettable Witch. Unrelated, but I remember finding this series a year ago or so and trying to read it, but it wasn't translated, so I'm actually extremely happy that I got to read this and talk about this. So, let's begin. This is going to be a longer video, but it will be enjoyable. You see, in the future, I will become a witch. It's the first set of dialogue we're shown when we're introduced to our characters. Despite these unbelievable words leaving the girl's mouth right in front of her, she can't help but believe them, as her words hold some form of mysterious power. She also shows us that she has a unique ability to predict the weather using what she calls deja vu. Hearing about this strange phenomena that the girl in front of her has explained, our main character, Ayaka Aizawa, starts thinking that maybe, just maybe, the girl in front of her is experiencing repeating days too. This leads us into our next segment. The beginning. The 6th of April, Section A. The girl we previously see refer to herself as a witch is introduced to be Inaba Michiru. This is Inaba's first time meeting Ayaka. After the two introduce themselves and practically hit it off with Ayaka basically fumbling immediately, we learn more about our protagonist, who is Ayaka, in case I haven't made that clear at any points. To Ayaka, the concept of friendship is out of her reach, which is why we see her try to push Inaba Michiru away constantly, despite being very obviously interested in the girl. Despite Ayaka's attempts to push Inaba Michiru away, Inaba Michiru continues making jokes, making small talk, and just being overall interested in Ayaka. Despite being confused, Ayaka is also filled with a strong sense of belonging, and finds joy in talking to Inaba Michiru. Then the next day, the 6th of April, Section B, everything is revealed. As Inaba Michiru walks into the class late again and approaches Ayaka, we're shown firsthand the strange phenomena that Ayaka suffers from. Ayaka suffers from a phenomena that makes the world around her repeat, and since Ayaka's days repeat, it becomes very easy for her to remember events sheerly because of how many times she's witnessed them. Ayaka's ability, or rather curse, is to remember. However, I also want to put this here just for clarity's sake. It's not like Ayaka's days repeat infinitely. Each day repeats on average around 5 times. However, the number isn't ever really fixed. Some days repeat 8 times, some days repeat 7 times, but the average number of days is usually 5. After the 5 repeats of a day are up, only one instance within those 5 repeats will be picked to be used going forward by complete chance. So put in simple terms, one day will essentially repeat 5 times for Ayaka, and in one of those 5 instances, a random one iteration of that day will be picked by complete chance, and that day will become tomorrow. And every time the day resets, the events of that day also reset. Put in context, the 6th of April Section A's events have been erased, and we are now on the 6th of April Section B. So since the prior events have been erased, Inaba Michiru and Ayaka Aizawa are now strangers again. This is why the concept of friendship is so foreign for Ayaka. Whenever she does meet people, the days just reset and they go back to being strangers. She can never form connections. One more thing I want to add that's necessary, and I know that this is a lot, but trust me, this series definitely has times where it is confusing, and knowing all of this beforehand will make your reading experience a lot better. With that said, let me ask you, do you do the same thing every day? The answer is most likely no. The same logic applies to this series. Nobody does the same thing every day, so although Ayaka experiences repeating days, the events of those days sometimes are different. One day, someone might interact with her because maybe she accidentally put on 2 different socks, while on another repeat of that day, that person who previously talked to her because of the 2 different socks would otherwise have no reason to interact with her, so that interaction just wouldn't happen. The point is, the days are interchangeable, leading to the possibility of different things happening on the same day. With that new knowledge, it seems unlikely that the same thing would happen every day, right? But no. Ayaka actually becomes friends with Michiru in every instance, which means that since 5 days have passed and they've become friends in every instance, Ayaka and Michiru's friendship is now solidified. It's set in stone, which is rare. The chances of that are very low. As the story continues, we're introduced to all sorts of problems that Ayaka's unconventional ability brings. She has to make sure that she doesn't say anything that she learned previously about whoever she's talking to, or she runs the risk of becoming suspicious and rumors spreading. She's not able to find love, have friendship, or any of the general things that all of us have the luxury of doing. And the worst of it all has to be Ayaka's relationship with her parents. Due to Ayaka's strange circumstances, it's a given that nobody is really going to believe her if she comes out and says, "I experience repeating days." And her parents are no exception. Once Ayaka came out and told her parents about what's been going on, obviously they didn't believe her, and her mom even goes as far as getting violent or becoming verbally abusive when her daughter keeps insisting that her days are repeating. Ayaka's father, on the other hand, actually believed her once. However, the instance in which her father believed her had not been chosen to be the day that she'd use going forward. Ayaka's condition frightens her mother, and she genuinely begins believing that Ayaka is a witch, which eventually leads her mother to sending Ayaka away to live with a relative. And when Ayaka is later able to return home, she's basically been disowned. This all has been a product of Ayaka's power. The story progresses at a pretty fair pace, with Ayaka and Inaba becoming considerably closer. Regardless of what days are picked or not, Ayaka genuinely just finds extreme happiness in being able to talk with Inaba. Inaba is really the only friend that Ayaka has made in a long time. It's not often that she gets lucky enough to have a friend that stays. And all is peaceful until chapter 5. Remember earlier when I said that Ayaka was sent off to live with a relative by her parents? Well, that relative is a character who goes by the name of Yuka. Yuka is actually Ayaka's cousin. And Yuka is also extremely head over heels for Ayaka. You know what? Don't talk about it. We're just going to graze over that. With Ayaka's parents pretty much abandoning her, she's essentially under Yuka's care. Yuka provides Ayaka with the things that she needs and even drops by to visit Ayaka very frequently. However, one day, Yuka comes to visit late, which isn't what she typically does. After Yuka doesn't show up for another repeated day, Ayaka decides to go out and get some food, and to her surprise, Yuka hadn't shown up because she'd been struck by a car and killed. Ironically, this is also the last day of the repeating day cycle. However, remember earlier when I said that some of the days go on for either shorter or longer than 5 days? Well, by the grace of the gods, the next day is a repeat, and Ayaka has the time to save Yuka's life. The scene, or rather this chapter, is the first time in a while that I felt genuine anxiety when reading a manga. The anticipation as to whether or not Yuka would be alive the next day was enthralling. The series so far hasn't been necessarily the most slice of life-ish, nor has it been the most serious ever, but right here the tone of the series almost completely shifts to a dark, life or death, real deal serious thing. And I really like when series are able to change the tone at will. And believe me, a lot of series actually struggle to do this, and I'm sure that, without me saying anything, you all can think of an example or two. The day does end up repeating, and Ayaka is able to save Yuka. However, Yuka's death delivers a new idea to the surface that Ayaka was previously unaware of, and that is death. All sorts of questions are sparked. What will happen if Ayaka dies? Is Ayaka even able to die? Yuka's death unveils yet another layer of the story that I can't describe as anything but disturbing. The harsh reality of Ayaka's condition really settles in more. We're uncertain as of now as to whether or not Ayaka is capable of dying. If she is not capable of death, which is the more likely outcome, then that effectively will make Ayaka immortal. And if Ayaka is immortal, well, then what? These types of plot twists, these types of feelings, these are captured by this series extremely well, and it's around this point where Ayaka's condition really settles in. It really hits you, and you're thinking, wait, where is this going to go? After Ayaka manages to save Yuka, sheerly by pure luck and coincidence that the day she died wasn't chosen, everything returns back to normal for a short while. While at school on her third iteration of October 4th, a new development takes place. One in which Ayaka and Inaba reach a shocking development in their relationship. They come to the conclusion that, no, what they are is not best friends. They're more than that. Ayaka wants to know everything about Inaba, and also wants Inaba to know everything about her, knowing that she very likely won't experience anything like this in her life ever again, or at the very least, for a very, very, very long time. Ayaka enjoys this moment to the fullest, as her and Inaba feel the same thing, the same heat, the same warmth, the same feelings. And then, introduce October 5th, the turning point for everything in this series. Before the chapter can even begin, Ayaka announces to us that today, Inaba is going to die. This random announcement that comes right after everything is finally looking up is jarring, but the contents of this chapter are just as extreme, so be prepared. Beginning the chapter, we're introduced to a very depressed Ayaka. Just as she guessed, the prior events hadn't been in her favor, as the day that her and Inaba realized their feelings for one another and became intimate was not in fact chosen, meaning that everything that happened previously was lost, erased. Knowing that, she can't face Inaba properly after everything that happened to them was erased. Ayaka is planning on skipping school today, however, Inaba, to her surprise, comes to pick her up. While on the way to school, Ayaka has a revelation. She shouldn't grieve over the day that she lost. She should instead be doing everything that she can to preserve the girl that she loves. It's directly after that sentiment from Ayaka that everything turns to hell in a matter of seconds. A car that's gone out of control flies up the back of a tow truck, plunging into the ground at full speed, resulting in a giant gas explosion. Ayaka and Inaba manage to escape danger, however, as if showing them a glimmer of hope, only to take it away right after. Inaba is crushed while protecting Ayaka from the remnants of the massive explosion. Inaba is completely submerged, and it doesn't take Ayaka long to realize that the girl she loves, the girl who shined a ray of light into her desolate and dark, aimless, pointless existence, is gone. Ayaka, grasping at straws, tries to convince herself to believe that the same thing that happened with Yuka will happen with Inaba. Today won't be chosen, she tries to force herself to believe. However, Ayaka wouldn't be that lucky. That day was chosen, and the next day continues. A world without Inaba Michiru continues. Ayaka, in a fit of rage, is determined to bring back Inaba no matter what she has to do. The first thing that comes to Ayaka's mind is the existence of witches. Inaba showed her her abilities, and Ayaka believes it. And the first person who comes to mind when thinking of witches is none other than her cousin, her guardian, her lovey, Yuka. After debunking Yuka's attempt at hiding her nature as a witch, Yuka reveals that Ayaka is indeed correct, that she is a full-fledged witch. Yuka's ability is to cut and paste the world at will. However, she's restricted to things that have actually occurred, meaning that she can't fabricate a reality. Yuka, in essence, had been using Ayaka's stories to manipulate the realities that were in her favor, since Ayaka is able to see multiple realities as her days repeat. Becoming aware of Ayaka's circumstances and what she's trying to do, Yuka rewards Ayaka for saving her life previously, by letting her go back to yesterday, October 5th, the day that Inaba died. However, before doing this, she educates Ayaka on her own ability that she'd been previously oblivious towards. Ayaka believed that her ability was that of perfect memory. She'd re-experienced events so many times to the point where she was physically incapable of forgetting. However, that isn't necessarily true. Ayaka's actual ability is called reobservation. Reobservation allows Ayaka to relive past events that she's once experienced. If this seems confusing, you can think of it like a book. You have the power to go back a page or go forward a page, essentially making you able to relive any portion of that book. The perfect memory was just a slight bonus, a side effect from Ayaka's main power. Ayaka, in a rush to save Inaba, agrees to erase today, meaning that this conversation she had with Yuka, everything that she learned about her memory, would be gone since today is going to be erased from history. In order to go back to yesterday, today can't exist. Ayaka, still in a rush and unable to wait to fall asleep for the day to reset, takes the quickest way to ending the day. And how does she do that, you may ask? She kills herself, effectively erasing October 6th from history and returning to October, and it's truly a one-of-a-kind arc. This series, in a very short amount of time, has become one of my favorite Yuri series, and I'm not even joking. I think that the series may take the number 2 or 3 spot, which is huge. The series is so enthralling, so creative, and so unique, and I feel like this series does not get the recognition it deserves whatsoever, so I intend on making videos about this series as a way to spread awareness. I will be making videos on this series for the foreseeable future, most likely. Thank you all so much for watching. Keep your eyes peeled for the second part to this, where I tackle the light novel, talk about what happens after the events of the manga, talk about what happens after chapter 15. You guys are really going to want to see it, I promise. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next one.